Good afternoon. Welcome to your midweek edition of NewsWire here on SportsGrid. I'm Craig Mish. We're one step closer to the NBA Finals. We'll get to the result in the Western Conference in just a minute. We've got special guests, as always, here on the show. Gilbert McGregor will join us courtesy of Phoenix Sports. We'll break down the latest in the NBA. Also, Brady Cannon with an upcoming golf tournament this week as we get closer and closer to the U.S. Open in June. Sam McQuillan here from Legal Sports Report. And as always, Rob Donaldson weighs in on the latest in Major League Baseball with some afternoon and evening affairs to get to tonight. Now, naturally, the National Football League will not kick off for a couple of months. We are getting closer to that date. Can't wait for that. Some not so great news, though, for the Green Bay Packers, and particularly for their running back, Josh Jacobs, who was arrested last weekend in Wisconsin and is facing multiple domestic violence-related charges over an alleged disturbance Memorial Day weekend. Jacobs' attorney is saying that the allegations should be denied and saying that the matter is in the early stage of investigation, asking for fairness and restraint. The Packers are aware of the matter, too. An ongoing legal situation. We won't know anything for the time being, but certainly Jacobs a very big piece of what the Packers are doing. But the bigger story is obviously a domestic violence alleged incident over the weekend. Meanwhile, in better news, the National Football League is seeing a very high-priced free agent or a high-priced player not even get to free agency. Derwin James is now the highest paid safety in the National Football League, 3 years, $25 million per year, and now becomes the highest paid safety in the NFL for the second time. The guaranteed money on this one from Los Angeles is $57.5 million. Meanwhile, what will the future hold for former college football quarterback Brendan Sorsby? He has been reinstated after his 35-day inpatient rehab for his gambling addiction in Goodyear, Arizona, but the NCAA says that he's not eligible for the 2026 season. So he can essentially enter the NFL draft or maybe wait for another year of eligibility next season. But as of right now, the supplemental draft could be next in line. Sorsby can't play college football this year, but potentially next season. It is very complicated. If it sounds complicated, it is. So no college football this season for Sorsby, potentially the NFL, and maybe potentially college football after the season is complete. So we'll have to see. In the NBA last night, the Oklahoma City Thunder imposed their will on the San Antonio Spurs and stand one game from facing the New York Knicks as they win with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander going off 32 points again, 9 assists. Chet Holmgren had 16 and 11. It was a very quiet game for Victor Wembanyama, 20 points and 6 rebounds. In fact, Stephon Castle was the leading scorer for the Spurs last night. So the championship is in sight once again for OKC. Here's Mark Daigneault as he sees his club bouncing back in Game 5.
Was there a point that you saw that start even, I don't know, the other night after that loss? You're still in San Antonio. I don't know. Just you sense sort of the mindset, that championship caliber mindset these guys have.
I don't really play psychologist on that stuff. I don't know. I have tremendous trust in the team. I'm not really reading into much, but I just know this team really well, and I know that when we don't play well, we look in the mirror. We don't make excuses. We don't point fingers, and usually that's the best way to get yourself into the next opportunity. And so, again, they did a great job of, taking, we needed to look at that game and learn from it, but then flush it after that and understand tonight was a blank canvas and a new day, just like Game 6 will be a blank canvas and a new day.
Mitch, how did you think Victor played, and can you do more to get him going?
We're going to need to. He's got to take more than 15 shots, even with the free throws. And, yeah, he's going to have to score more than 20 points for sure. And
I'm sorry, is that his aggression or game plan or combination of both?
Yeah, combination of both for sure. OKC did a good job. We got to do a better job. And that's, probably the easiest in terms of when you just surface level stuff, that he'll definitely need to take more shots. But there's a lot of things all over the place where even when we had advantages and we just didn't make simple plays that take advantage of the opportunity in that possession. And in this type of game, you got to be sure of everything you're doing in a very secure, mature way.
Meanwhile, the Spurs are on the verge of elimination, but that means the Oklahoma City Thunder are on the verge of clinching the Western Conference. Here's Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the NBA's MVP, on looking into the eyes of his buddies in the locker room and say they just care about one thing.
Justin and Barry. Justin. You mentioned that you trust Chet. You'll bet on him 10 times out of 10. I'd imagine you feel that way about a lot of guys on this team, the whole group. Just what is it about these guys? Obviously, you've grown alongside them throughout the years. Just what is it about them that gives you the confidence they can all respond the way they did?
How hard they work. The intentions they have out there on the basketball court and the type of teammates they are. Like, I know wholeheartedly everyone's intention on the basketball team is to win the game. No other agendas. Nobody cares about anything else besides winning. And everybody works their tail off to get to that and be the best version of themselves doing so. And yeah, like, when that's all you can ask from a teammate. That nothing else you can ask for. Work hard and give it your all to try to go out there and win. We have a group full of guys like that.
All right, so this weekend, potentially we'll see if the Spurs or the Thunder advance to play the Knicks in the championship. Meanwhile, no championship in store, at least for the time being, for the Chicago Cubs. Can you lose 10 games in a row and play in the World Series? We're going to find out, because the Cubs lost yesterday again, this time 12-1. The Pirates were at home and favorites. Brandon Ashcraft completely shut them down, but the Pirates took a 5-0 lead in the first inning and never looked back. So things have hit rock bottom, according to manager Craig Counsell.
Yeah, look, I mean, someone's just got to step up and get hits in those spots. I mean, there's not much more to say than that. You know, you got to conduct a big league at bat. It's the at bats you want. Those are the at bats you want to have during the course of a game. And you got to deliver. That's the name of the game. You know, we're kind of having the same inning over and over again. And it's about delivering in those situations. And until we do, we're going to be talking about the same thing.
5 straight losses again. Meanwhile, for the New York Mets, all their good feelings are gone. They did score 2 runs, though, in this game. Juan Soto hit a home run. Not much else happening. Chase Burns shut him down 5 1/3 at 8 strikeouts, 7-2 the final. How about the Texas Rangers finally exploding on offense? They had 8 runs in the first inning and beat the Astros by a final of 10-7. Home runs from Jock Peterson and Evan Carter. The difference, they were no hit the day before, but the offense broke out, says manager Skip Schumacher.
Skip, baseball is a funny game. So what's going through your mind as you're watching all of those 8 runs score there in the first inning?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense sometimes. You're trying to, think about different ways to win games. Last night, late at night, again this morning, and then we come out and walk and slug. So it's just kind of a crazy game. But I think the first inning again set the tone. Just kind of last night we had bases on and didn't score. This time we had bases loaded. I think Nimmo getting that first hit kind of I don't want to say sigh of relief, but just kind of got things going. And then Berger with the bases loaded knock was awesome. And I think that's when, everyone just kind of got contagious, and it was really good to see everyone. Felt like almost everybody get a hit or square a ball up tonight. So, yeah, good day for the offense.
Good offense also for the New York Yankees yesterday. The struggling Royals continue to fall. They got a 15 spot put on them yesterday. Bellinger, Grisham, Volpe, all with home runs for the Yankees, and Cam Schlittler continues his Cy Young pace with 6 innings pitched of 1 run ball and 6 strikeouts. Also, the Braves beat the Red Sox 7-6 as the Red Sox keep losing at home, and the Braves got 4 hits from Michael Harris II. In the Stanley Cup Finals, we do have one team advancing to the championship. That would be the Vegas Golden Knights. They're going back for the 3rd time in 9 seasons. They beat the Avalanche in a sweep 2-1. Tonight we have one game in the Eastern Conference Finals. Carolina takes on Montreal. The Hurricanes lead the series 2-1, and they're favored tonight -150 on the money line. Up next, Gilbert McGregor joins us to talk some hoops right after this. All right, Gilbert McGregor is with us covering the Phoenix Suns, and of course catch his podcasts and video chats. And if you want to get involved with that, just follow Gilbert on social media and that'll direct you to everywhere you need to be. Also talking the NBA, a conference that Gilbert is quite familiar with, having seen these two teams all season long. It's the Phoenix Suns, of course, sitting at home. Sorry, Gilbert, but the Oklahoma City Thunder and San Antonio Spurs, they roll on. And Gilbert, from the times you've been on the show, it seems like the series is kind of playing out the way that you thought, back and forth. Inevitably, OKC wins, but it's not over yet. I know they won by 13 yesterday. Jalen Williams didn't play, so that's, certainly concerning to see if he could get back for the next game, which San Antonio will certainly be, I would guess, a 1.5 favorite. Let me take a look here. 3.5 point favorites. Okay, so look, this could go the distance. But before we get to the next game, let's go back to last night. It seems like this is just the simple blueprint for OKC. Shea gets his 30. Holmgren gets a double-double. But I guess the Spurs probably will look back on this and say they didn't play the best defense that they played in the series.
Right, to see the Thunder score 127 points against this Spurs team. I didn't expect to see that happen in this series. And Chet Holmgren stepped up. He had been called out by a lot of people, a lot of national media, a lot of people saying he needed to play better, especially against his arch rival, Victor Wembanyama. And him getting that double-double, his first of the series, was big for them. Shea got to the line. And a lot of times people talk about it, and I know that people say a lot about him and his ability to draw fouls, but him getting to the line was big for him. And even hearing Mitch Johnson say, or Spurs head coach Mitch Johnson say, they needed more from Victor Wembanyama, need more from him, more than 20 points for him to beat the Thunder team, especially on the road. So the fact that the Thunder were able to lean on their home crowd, Jerry McCain stepped up, and the fact that they were able to get this win without Jalen Williams and without A.J. Mitchell says a lot about who the Thunder are, and now they have the Spurs on a brink of elimination.
Yeah, no, it's definitely an impressive win for them, but we're going to get to the next game here, which is coming up Thursday. First, let me show you the odds to win the series, which basically we're at the stage where there's not a lot of value on either side here. Unless you think the Spurs are going to come all the way back and win, you can get plus 480, but why would anybody bet minus 460? Even in a parlay, doesn't make any sense. So let's push it forward to Thursday night at 8:40 Eastern, where the Spurs season will be on the line. And they have played very well at home against everybody, including the Oklahoma City Thunder, and they're 3.5 point favorites in this one with a total of 218.5. Arguably, on paper, the hardest game to predict in the playoffs right here, Gilbert. This is it. It's like, this is where you got to make your money. Can the Spurs get this and move it to a game 7, or does it end on Thursday night?
It does feel impossible to predict, and it almost feels like this one. You just go with your gut. And right now, as we sit here, a little over 30 hours away from that game, my gut is saying this goes 7. My gut says that the Spurs are going to push this to 7. It feels like from game 1, this series was destined to go the distance. But the big thing, you have to keep an eye on the injury report. Obviously, Jalen Williams tried to play yesterday. He warmed up but could not go. It was a late scratch as far as that goes. I don't expect to see A.J. Mitchell anymore this series. Those calf injuries are very tricky and very tough to navigate. But if the Thunder are not at full strength and the Spurs have their home crowd behind them, this is a team that typically responds, especially for a young team. They respond to adversity very well, and I expect them to take care of business at home. I still think the Thunder will win this series, but I think they do it in 7 games.
Okay, fair enough. So now here's the bigger question as we move forward. Let's assume that you're right and the Thunder end up winning. You can see here that the odds makers are really giving the Knicks a chance to win this series, and I don't think it's just New York bias. If you look at the odds, they're not that formidable. Plus 230 here. OKC is minus 160. So let's make the assumption that Oklahoma City, as you said, Gilbert, wins, whether it's Thursday or I'm guessing Sunday will probably be game 7, maybe Saturday. I don't know. OKC would go down to probably minus 120, minus 130, and the Knicks would stay the same there. But I don't think that anybody would have had anybody against OKC being this short a dog with New York. So do you think that the Knicks stand a chance in the 7-game series against the Thunder in the finals?
Craig, I do think they have a chance, and I felt this way since their sweep of the 76ers. Now, I know the 76ers were very undermanned in that series, but watching the Knicks find something, they were clicking on all cylinders. They won 11 consecutive games this postseason, and it's because they're playing their best basketball at the best possible time. And when I think about matching up with either San Antonio, who they beat in the NBA Cup final, or the Oklahoma City Thunder, I think about the fact that the Knicks have an opportunity to take advantage of the way that these teams like to play you. These teams want to concede looks to your role players, and the Knicks have a bevy of role players that can hurt you. We've seen Mikal Bridges come out of a slump. We've seen Landry Shamet, Deuce McBride, OG Anunoby, who's not necessarily a role player, more of the star guy for them. These guys, the supporting cast for Karl Anthony Towns and Jalen Brunson, can step up over the course of a 7-game series and make a team pay. So I think they have more than a punch or shot. Now, I do recognize and realize and understand why Oklahoma City is going to be favored, but we've seen some of their flaws. We see their injury issues, and it'll be a very interesting series. I think New York has a real shot.
Yeah, plus a game and a half I'm seeing for the Knicks, whoever they play in the finals, at like minus 140, minus 150, which tells you if you really think the Knicks can keep it close. I mean, it's a lot to lay in juice, but maybe the Knicks, either if they don't win, if they keep it to 6 or 7, that would accomplish that mission. All right, let's take a look at the Cavs real quick. They end their season, Gilbert, in by getting swept, and you know, naturally, any team that loses via the sweep is going to get criticized quite a bit. That's what's going on with Kenny Atkinson and the Cleveland Cavaliers. And I guess I'll ask you the same question, Gilbert, that I asked earlier in the week. If I told you at the beginning of the season that the Cavs got to the Eastern Conference Finals in the NBA, and I told you you don't get to guess the result, but they just get knocked out, you would have said, all right, I'll take it. But I guess the nature of how they got swept is what's getting people so upset in Cleveland.
Had to be a very disappointing and demoralizing way, and I think that series goes completely differently if they find a way to win game 1. But I think they're looking at the rest of the Eastern Conference and saying, you know, if we run it back and have some continuity, the grass isn't always greener when you fire your coach and try to find somebody new. So you can always make a change mid-season, which isn't necessarily the best for chemistry. But if they come out of the gates poorly next year, then maybe that's the case. But I think they're planning on extending James Harden long-term, and they're planning on basically running things back. And they look at the rest of the Eastern Conference and think they have another chance to do it. So, you know, if you fire your coach, you ask the next one, basically it's finals or bust, as we've seen with the Knicks this year with Mike Brown. So I guess they're just saying, look, we'd be okay with going to the conference finals again, and maybe they have some things up their sleeves this offseason as far as it goes with moves outside of the roster.
And Gilbert will cover all of free agency on his podcast and video chat, so make sure you check them out as the NBA season comes to a close here in a couple of weeks. Gilbert, thanks again for coming on NewsWire. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate you, Greg.
All right, up next, we talk some golf with Brady Kent. Go ahead.
To endure months of manufactured rumors about will he or won't he retire LeBron James. They are probably, Donnie, working on the Decision 2.0 for Amazon Prime as we speak. Is Jim Gray still around? But here is the beauty of the predictive markets. They make insufferable stories about insufferable people highly profitable.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
You can recruit super young talent that may go in the NBA. You can recruit older guys and have them grow up together. But if you want players to stay, either sign them to contracts or treat them well enough where they're going to stay. To me, it's pretty simple. And, you know, a lot of coaches last year had good years and they left skid marks on their schools and nobody said a word.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
Job, clearly, right? They're 16-4 since he took over, but we have to remember when Rob Thompson took over for the Phillies and they went 65-46 back in 2022, he finished 5th in NL Manager of the Year that year. So could Mattingly win it? Of course, but he doesn't really have history on his side. I'm still on Don Kelly 15-1 to win Manager of the Year.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
They're trading right now currently at 74 wins on the season, which means the Kalshi marketplace goes by 5-win intervals. 75-plus wins for those Houston Astros. That's a 49% contract to the yes, which a $100 investment pays back $205, Greg. I'm not high on this team. Look, again, 75 wins for the Astros is terrible, but this team might not even look the same as where we stand today by the time we get to that deadline.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Getting ready for the U.S. Open here in a few weeks in June as we close the book on the PGA Tour in the month of May. Let's bring in Brady Cannon for a recap of last week, a look ahead to this week's upcoming tournament. Brady, once again, great to see you and have you on the show. And last week at the Byron Nelson, birdies were out quite a bit. You don't generally see scores like this, but Wyndham Clark ends up taking home the championship, and that is not a typo. 30 under for the tournament, and he wasn't the only one. Scheffler 25, Siwoo Kim 27, Suber 23. So these tournaments, I guess, give a lot of confidence to the guys on the tour playing. It makes them think that, hey, I'm great and I'm back. But realistically speaking, I guess this was just one of the easier tour stops.
No doubt about it. And you have to feel for TPC Craig Ranch because they spent $25 million trying to upgrade this golf course and make it more difficult after Scottie Scheffler torched it to the tune of 31 under par last year. And he was 8 shots ahead of anyone else, his next closest pursuer. Well, Wyndham Clark, all he does is shoot 30 under par. And as you pointed out, a handful of guys that were, fairly close as well. So this course is obviously very, very easy for these guys. Now, it was wet and they were playing lift clean in place. But no matter what the situation is, 30 under par is pretty ridiculous. I felt that you had to have a hot putter. You've got to make a ton of birdies, obviously, to win a tournament like that. I think it'll be similar this week. The scores are not going to be anywhere near that. I think we probably end up with, 14, 15, 16, a reasonable winning score this week at Colonial. But these greens are very tough, bent grass, great surfaces, fast. It's a very positional course, Craig. And you mentioned the U.S. Open. Watch this golf tournament this week with a discerning eye because I think it can point to a lot of clues as to who might win in a few weeks at Shinnecock. This course, Colonial Country Club, 80th edition now of this golf tournament, the longest running PGA Tour event at the same course, and it hosted the U.S. Open in 1941. It has a lot of those same type of characteristics that lead to U.S. Open success. So I think that's a little bit that you have to keep in the back of your mind here this week when watching this golf event.
Yeah, and you mentioned it. This week it is the Charles Schwab Challenge, and naturally, after a couple eventful weeks, looks like some guys are taking the week off this week based on the field that I see. So Oberg is in it, so he's plus 850, and then everybody after that is essentially a long shot. We'll get to Brady's picks here in just a second. First, let's show you some of the current odds on some of the top players here. Oberg 850, Henley 18-1, Justin Thomas 18-1, Ricky Fowler 22-1.
Yeah, Justin Thomas is really popular this week. I just got the memo from our friends at BetMGM, and he is number one in ticket count, number one in handle, and he is their number one biggest liability. And that trifecta spells doom to me. I actually am a big fade of Justin Thomas this week because it feels like he is getting so much love. Now, it's a week, and he's obviously one of the best players in this field. But he's getting a ton of love off of what he did at the PGA Championship a couple of weeks ago, where he was brilliant. But that's really been his best major. He's won the PGA twice. The U.S. Open has been his worst major. And as I mentioned, this is very similar to a U.S. Open type setup. He may do fine, but I don't think he's not my pick for a winner this week, Craig.
Okay, fair enough. So Brady does have some super long shot bombs this week. I'm looking at 6 names and I recognize 2. So that tells me we're really in for one this week. JT Poston is the name that I recognize really right at the top. He is 70-1. All right, Brady, I always ask you, how'd you land on these?
Well, it was kind of the same strategy as last week. Find guys that can really make a lot of birdies and putt very well. And you got to take some shots with some bombs. Because like you say, Oberg, Henley, Thomas, and then after that, you basically get started at 50 or 60-1. So Ryan Gerard, he did really well at the Sony earlier this year. And I think there's a lot of correlation with this golf course, Colonial, with the Sony. JT Poston, excellent short game you mentioned. Also went with Eric Cole, another tremendous short game player. Mac Meisner, who's been in really good form as of late. I'm going to go back to the well with Taylor Moore. He cashed a top 20 ticket for us last week. And then Lee Hodges, the longest bomb of them all, at 150 to 1. We'll see if we can find a needle in the haystack, Craig.
All right, Brady, good luck. We'll see you again next week. Thanks for coming on NewsWire. I appreciate it. Up next, we will talk some prediction markets with Sam McQuillan from Legal Sports Report. Stay on the grid. We'll be right back.
To endure months of manufactured rumors about will he or won't he retire LeBron James. They are probably, Donnie, working on the Decision 2.0 for Amazon Prime as we speak. Is Jim Gray still around? But here is the beauty of the predictive markets. They make insufferable stories about insufferable people highly profitable.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
You can recruit super young talent that may go in the NBA. You can recruit older guys and have them grow up together. But if you want players to stay, either sign them to contracts or treat them well enough where they're going to stay. To me, it's pretty simple. And, you know, a lot of coaches last year had good years and they left skid marks on their schools and nobody said a word.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
Great job, clearly, right? They're 16-4 since he took over, but we have to remember when Rob Thompson took over for the Phillies and they went 65-46 back in 2022, he finished 5th in NL Manager of the Year that year. So could Mattingly win it? Of course, but he doesn't really have history on his side. I'm still on Don Kelly 15-1 to win Manager of the Year.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
They're trading right now currently at 74 wins on the season, which means the Kalshi marketplace goes by 5-win intervals. 75 plus wins for those Houston Astros. That's a 49% contract to the yes, which a $100 investment pays back $205, Greg. I'm not high on this team. Look, again, 75 wins for the Astros is terrible, but this team might not even look the same as where we stand today by the time we get to that deadline.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Let's bring in Sam McQuillan from Legal Sports Report. He's here with us on this Wednesday to go over the latest in prediction markets and also some potential new bills heading into legislature. Sam, great to have you here on NewsWire. Okay, so we start off with a story here, very interesting here, that there is this company called Fair Predicts making comments about some of the prediction markets and their space, very specifically Kalshi sort of throwing out a derogatory comment toward this. Kalshi not really happy with the way that this is, but I guess I would ask you, Sam, and of course you could read the story at legalsportsreport.com. Tell me more about Fair Predicts and why what they say has such a big impact on what they're talking about.
Yeah, it's a lot of finger pointing in this space right now, amid one side saying you're lying, you're deceptive, the other side saying, no, actually, you're lying, you're deceptive, which is kind of what you have happen when there's a new big industry or product that kind of begs regulation. Everyone scrambles to get a piece of it. And Kalshi certainly is the biggest prediction market right now operating. It has a ton of lawsuits where states are alleging what it's doing is sports betting. Kalshi says what it's doing is actually federally legal and permissible in all 50 states. That's the whole thing. And then you have this group called Fair Predicts, which calls itself a nonpartisan market watchdog group dedicated to exposing companies that it says are doing false advertising, insider trading, money laundering, and holding them accountable sort of in the public eye. It launched this 6-figure ad campaign just recently. It actually coincided with a Senate hearing on regulating prediction markets, but the campaign is called Kalshi Lies, so it's no surprise that Kalshi's not happy with it. It basically says that Kalshi falsely advertise itself as, being a platform where there's no house, where all the trading is peer-to-peer. You're betting against your friends and neighbors rather than a sports book itself. It's one of those kind of big marketing ploys that Kalshi has pushed out there as, an alternative to sports books, which it calls predatory. But Kalshi Lies, the campaign, is saying that, actually that's not entirely true. Kalshi owns its own market maker on the exchange called Kalshi Trading, which profits from every customer loss, win. So it's essentially participating in the exchange that says is purely peer-to-peer. And also on top of that, it has a lot of Wall Street firms trading on the exchange against casual bettors, taking advantage of them, being predatory with their pricing. Those firms also own a big stake in Kalshi. So it's had this big advertising campaign trying to expose Kalshi for its lies, it says. And Kalshi hit back this week and sent it a letter basically asking it to, or telling it rather, to stop immediately, claiming that, these were defamatory statements and lies, which could hurt Kalshi's business. This is something that could escalate into a lawsuit down the line if Kalshi or if the company doing the advertising Fair Predicts does not comply. Rather, Kalshi says it, in fact, is not a house. It says that this trading, arm that exists on the exchange really functions just to provide liquidity and actually doesn't profit from exchanges, from trades at all, and actually operates at a loss. It says it's just one of those, big market makers that has on there to make sure that there is the other side of that trade when people go to place a bet. It also asserts that a substantial amount of trading activity is not done by those Wall Street firms. So it is more peer-to-peer than this group is kind of accusing. So it's sort of a legal step right here before a potential lawsuit, but it is significant in the fact that you have Kalshi firing back at one group spending a lot of money trying to tell people that it's misleading people. So, we have a ton of lawsuits that are left to play out. We have laws that may be made, maybe not made. So we'll see where kind of everything ends up, but this definitely is kind of just another crazy step in this process of prediction markets we've been talking about for over a year now, Craig.
Yeah, definitely so. And, the stories in sports betting continue to move on. And, with more availability for prediction markets come potential harassment from people to student athletes and just athletes in general. And in Louisiana, Sam, it would appear that they want to try and bring this to a head, put it to an end. But I guess I would ask you, even with legislation that says that they want to ban folks who harass athletes for sports betting, like what exactly can they do here? Find their email address, find their accounts. It seems pretty convoluted here for me to think that this is going to do anything more than just do a kind of a paper threat to get people to stop. Maybe that's just the idea. Maybe that's the idea, is just by putting it out there, it gets people to consider this a deterrent more than anything else.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the idea here, Craig. You hit the nail on the head. It's going to be impossible to prevent everyone from harassing athletes. We can certainly try to take measures, and I think that's what a state like Louisiana is doing. Especially when you look at the bill, they passed it unanimously in the legislature, which doesn't happen often. If you pretty much know anything about politics, or if you read a newspaper, you know that it's really hard to get lawmakers all on the same board. They passed this bill, which would make it so anyone who harasses an athlete, a coach, or anyone associated with a team or sporting event, they would make it so they're added to a list of excluded bettors where they cannot bet in the state. That would direct the Louisiana Gaming Control Board to expand the list that already includes people who have been found to be cheating on a sport or sporting event, or those accused of gambling crimes. So I think the legislature is probably looking at just what more can we do to safeguard against this issue, which certainly has been a hot topic over the years. Just a few years ago, the NCAA released a report that found a significant amount of college athletes receive abusive messages related to sports betting specifically, beyond just being harassed in general. There's been a lot of kind of rallying from players in the Big Ten, especially for the NCAA to do more to protect athletes. And the NCAA has in turn lobbied states to do more. So if I'm a state like Louisiana, it may be thinking we can't solve this issue entirely, but we can, make a small measure if it's out there, something that, doesn't really cost anything to do to kind of safeguard better against this stuff. There's a similar bill that's circulating in New York, and West Virginia passed a similar measure a few years ago. So I wouldn't be surprised if I see more states doing this, where there are some sort of penalties for people who harass athletes, especially for sports betting, or consequences where you can no longer bet on sports. Again, it's not going to solve the issue, but it's, maybe it can deter people. Maybe it can just be that much more of teeth on a really kind of serious issue that is definitely not going away, especially as sports betting expands, and especially as we talk about prediction markets as well and kind of expanding that.
All right, now let's move into Canada, Sam, and end here. Alberta is about to launch some online casinos here, and July 13th appears to be the date. I see that little picture there of Bet365, so they're a focus for us here. And naturally, Alberta probably embracing this, but, they're certainly a lot more careful there and more calculated they are here in the United States.
Yeah, no states are launching sports betting this year in the United States, but the industry is really going to be paying attention to Alberta, Canada, which on July 13th is going to go live with online casino as well as its sports betting market. So Bet365 being the latest name to join the list of applicants. There's been about 31 brands already that have registered, so a lot more than you would see typically in a state like where I am, New York. There's only about 12 sports books you can choose from here. It could be upwards of 75 when all is said and done. There's only one other province in Canada which has launched legal sports betting kind of in this fashion, and that's Toronto, or Ontario rather, and it's had a lot of brands register there. Alberta is roughly the same size as a state like Colorado or South Carolina, which would make it about the 22nd largest state in America. So it's still a significant market that's to launch for a lot of these sports betting brands. And I think that's why you see a brand like Bet365 be interested in launching there. It's one of the biggest brands in the world and actually has really taken a lot of steps to, up its game in America and launch in more states at a time when the industry is kind of shrinking and not really doing that. So I think Alberta will be really interesting to see, especially for a brand like Bet365, how much they invest there, how much they look to expand and take advantage of a new market at a time when a lot of the industry is looking for ways to save money.
Sam, as always, great stuff. I would say good luck to your Knicks in the finals, but I think I'm going to have a chance to say that to you next Monday and even maybe next Wednesday as the finals don't start for a bit. But thanks again for coming on the show.
Yeah, it's crazy. We've got a lot of time and try to enjoy it.
We do. All right, Rob Donaldson's up next. Don't go away.
The UIM Formula One World Championship Series. We are over the moon excited about the upcoming season.
Let's go.
10,000 horsepower roars off the dock. Oh my, there's a problem. On the outside, side by side.
And he's lost control of the book. Hopes and dreams of winning here. Yes!
Get ready for round one. The Regione Sardegna Grand Prix of Italy, May 29th to 31st.
Craig Carton along with Tyrone Johnson. We got great news for you. CraigCartonShow.com. And Tyrone, what do you get if you go to that amazing website?
Well, right now you can subscribe to our upcoming newsletter. You put in your email address, and then bang, you'll get all the new Craig Carton Show content when it arrives.
Not just that, you also get merch drops, exclusive content, and appearances. So again, one more time, that website is CraigCartonShow.com.
That's for Abdul Carter. Hey, son, you want to be a leader? Show up to meetings on time. Don't be late to practice. This guy's sitting there trying to tell me that he's got a problem with Jackson Dart going to a Trump rally when he can't even show up to a meeting on time? And he can't show up to practice and he's late? Dude.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Let's take a look at tonight's baseball slate. It is a very active Wednesday for baseball, very active afternoon for Wednesday. Usually it's Thursday that has the majority of day games, but we have a lot going on today, Rob. Rob Donaldson is here with us. So while the games are going on now, let's get to some of the later games and the night games. Appreciate, of course, you coming on. Let's start off with one of the hottest pitchers in baseball, and that is Sanchez on Philadelphia. Christopher Sanchez, he is minus 138 against the Padres today. They've been a very perplexing team, total of 7. Every day I wake up, Rob, and I see people betting Tatis to hit a home run, and it just never happens. I think that everyone has just been donating money this season. It's kind of crazy, but I think these two teams are kind of even on paper, but man, Sanchez is just pitching fantastic.
Absolutely. And kind of to your point, the Padres are a very boomer bust lineup that has largely been bust in a lot of games this season. They've had their fair share of, the double digit scoring outputs because they can have a lot of guys in that lineup that go yard. But the reality is this total of a flat 7 for the full game is probably pretty accurate. And even when you're looking at, Walker Buehler on the other side, you also got to factor in that a guy like a Brandon Marsh just got pulled out of the game last night for who knows what reason, and whether or not he'll be in the lineup today, who knows? And he's been one of the hottest hitters in this Phillies lineup. So I think both sides of the coin here could be really subdued offensively. I love the first 5 actually going under a flat 4. That's where I grabbed it. And even if you want to dabble with the full game market as well, I like that under a 7 there too.
All right, so the Rays-Orioles is the interesting one here, and that's a 6:30 p.m. game. So in doing my internet sleuthing, which I do here as always on the show, I have Steven Matz pitching for Tampa Bay. It looks like that the Orioles may throw Trey Gibson. That's the guy, Trey Gibson, as the potential opener today. Maybe Bassett would be the bulk guy here. And don't look now, but I mean, look, I think the Orioles are super disappointing, but they're playing a little bit better here. Finally, 6:36 p.m. Eastern. Steven Matz is back off the IL. He's starting against the Orioles, and I guess that's why the line is more of a pick'em, because finally Baltimore seems to be playing a little bit better.
Yeah, and honestly, the detriment of the Orioles the last few seasons has been anytime they're going up against the lefty, that offense just couldn't put up runs because a lot of their premium bats, whether it was, Santander in the past, Gunnar Henderson, a lot of their premium bats struggled against that side of a pitcher. And now, because of the revamp that they've done to their lineup, and when you factor in that guys like Pete Alonso, Adley Rutschman, Austin Jackson, Kobe Mayo, Taylor Ward, they're all hitting the ball really well right now from the right-handed side of the plate. And obviously Adley, a switch hitter as well. But I think when you're looking at the Orioles lineup against lefties this season, it's been a magical kind of revelation. And over the last couple weeks here as well, that's kind of been where their wins have come. I tend to think the Orioles are the side in this game for the full game. And even on a kind of a team total front, I really like the O's today.
All right, now 6:41 p.m. Eastern, we get the Angels and Tigers, both teams seemingly not going anywhere this season. The Tigers at least have some optimism, I would think. But today, the Angels have their 1 out of 5 days where they think they have a shot because they got their best pitcher on the mound in Jose Soriano. He'll face off with Casey Mize of Detroit as they wait to get Skubal back. The question will be, is it too late? Detroit minus 124 today. And I think probably, Rob, people look at that and just jump on Detroit, not understanding that Soriano is just far and away the Angels' best pitcher this season.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is, Detroit was one of the teams that was pegged as a potential contender out of the American League, or at least a team to make it past just the wild card round in the playoffs. Well, you look up the standings and look at these two teams. The Tigers, after yesterday, are now below the Angels in the AL standings, and actually, they're below everybody. They are the worst team in the American League in terms of record. They're one of their last 9, or one of the last 10, rather, in terms of the win-loss column. They've been an absolute disaster, and yeah, they do have some injuries. Those guys will kind of come back into the fold, both on the pitching front and the lineup front, and they'll start to kind of resurrect some of these woes. But ultimately, I think this team is just a team that right now is living in the doldrums. The mood is terrible, and they're playing like it. I don't want anything to do with the Tigers, and so I will take the Angels kind of begrudgingly here.
Yeah, that's a coin flip type game. Okay, so the Cubs are going through it right now. Longest losing streak in baseball. They've won 10 in a row. They've lost now 10 in a row. Talk about an up and down season. They're in Pittsburgh again today with a chance to break the streak. Odds makers are saying certainly possible. Minus 116 on the Pirates side, -1. So it's a coin flip game. Total 8.5 in this one. And certainly it's sort of stunning to me to see a team this talented lose 10 games in a row. But I've learned long enough, Rob, in sports betting, that you tend to just go with the trend and keep going with it. I know a lot of people are probably thinking, I got to go against it because they got to win eventually. Well, if you did that 7 days in a row, you've lost 7 days in a row too. What do you make of this one?
Yeah, when you look at the Cubs, the pitching is just flat out isn't there. And so they needed to be in contention down the stretch to sort of warrant making those moves at the deadline that they didn't make last season. Well, now the lineup's also in disarray. The pitching is still terrible. And Jameson Taillon, who's a human pinata at this point, is taking the bump again. I mean, if you're looking for a potential DFA candidate, given who they have in the minors right now, Jameson Taillon is kind of on that budding edge with another couple bad starts. Bubba Chandler on the other side for the Pirates, not a good looking surface level ERA, but he's not allowing a lot of hard contact right now, which kind of gives me that optimism. And so a bad lineup for the Cubs right now, a pitcher that I think can experience positive regression over the next few starts. This tends to feel like another Pirate spot. And if you do want also just a player prop here, O'Neal Cruz, look for a home run, look for the over 1.5 hits plus RBIs. That's where I'm heading.
All right, good one there. All right, final game to preview here. Let's do Braves and Red Sox. Yesterday, I just simply looked at this one, Rob, with another guest on the show and said, wait a second here. Why are the Braves not a bigger favorites against Boston? Like, they're much better. Yeah, and truth be told, the Braves had to rally yesterday, but I would probably just do the same thing again today. Like, I don't get it. Atlanta's just way better than Boston. Why are these lines pick 'em here?
Hey, I totally hear you, but I am going with the Red Sox here because I will die on the hill that Bryce Elder is going to experience that drop-off in a massive way sooner rather than later. Go ahead and give me the Red Sox at plus money, and also take a Yoshida player prop there too.
Yeah, he likes Yoshida, 2+ total bases at plus 146 today. Also, Luis Angel Acuna, over a half a hit today. Phillies Padres under first 5, -115. Thanks, Rob, for coming on the show. Appreciate it.
The UIM Formula One World Championship Series. We are over the moon excited about the upcoming season.
Let's go.
10,000 horsepower roars off the dock. Oh my, there's a problem. On the outside, side by side.
And he's lost control of the book.
Hopes and dreams of winning here.
Yes!
Get ready for round 1. The Regione Sardegna Grand Prix of Italy, May 29th to 31st.
Craig Carton along with Tyrone Johnson. We got great news for you. CraigCartonShow.com. And Tyrone, what do you get if you go to that amazing website?
Well, right now you can subscribe to our upcoming newsletter. You put in your email address, and then bang, you'll get all the new Craig Carton Show content when it arrives.
Not just that, you also get merch drops, exclusive content, and appearances. So again, one more time, that website is CraigCartonShow.com.
That's for Abdul Carter. Hey, son, you want to be a leader? Show up to meetings on time. Don't be late to practice. This guy's sitting there trying to tell me that he's got a problem with Jackson Dart going to a Trump rally when he can't even show up to a meeting on time? And he can't show up to practice and he's late? Dude.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio. Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Teams are doing their OTAs this week in the National Football League, so that is basically late May. They do another one in June, and before you know it, folks, late July, we're going to have NFL training camps opening, and the first game, that Hall of Fame game, is the first weekend in August, so get ready. NFL coming fast and furious here. Before we get to some last licks, we get to hear from some of the coaches today, and that would include Seahawks head coach Mike Macdonald, coming off, of course, a Super Bowl championship, talked to the media and said that the Super Bowl champs are running it forward, not running it back. Take a listen.
Have you seen players kind of embrace that messaging now that you've been around them?
They've been great. We're using the term, we want to run it forward. It meaning our process and who we are. And I think this is going to be a conversation that, something that we're going to talk about consistently. I don't think it's a one and done type of conversation. Really, it's just how we talk about how we operate all the time. It's something that we're having conversations with our team and our units every day about who we want to be and how we want to do things. And this situation is no different. So it's really nothing more than or less than that.
Who came up with run it forward?
If you like it, I'll take credit for it. If not, somebody else.
All right, so Mike Macdonald having some fun. It does appear that Seattle, more or less, as we would say, is kind of running it back. They didn't have a ton of high-priced free agents. The one name that is no longer a part of the Seattle Seahawks, of course, a very big part of their Super Bowl, is Kenneth Walker, who signed a free agent contract with the Kansas City Chiefs. All right, as we wrap up the show, we'll get to some more NFL news and notes, and also head to the Diamond, and also tell you about the most popular sports bar in the United States. It's time now to wrap up the show with some last licks. All right, the New York Giants certainly think that they have their franchise quarterback and they have their franchise coach now with John Harbaugh, but would you believe that Jackson Dart was taking crap from a new player on the Giants? That's Francis Mauigoa, who gifted Jackson Dart a custom Dart Fiesta Bowl jersey. Mauigoa played for the University of Miami, and the Hurricanes beat Dart's Ole Miss Rebels in the 2026 Fiesta Bowl. So as a little bit of a troll, Jackson Dart now has a new jersey, not of his Ole Miss Rebels, but he's got a Miami Hurricanes jersey, number 2. Check it out.
All right, go ahead. Open it. Open it, bro. Open it. Oh my gosh, bro. Oh my gosh. No. No way. Who is it? Who is it?
Yeah, I love it there. And, of course, University of Miami with a great football season. Ole Miss, pretty good, too. But, yeah, that's Jackson Dart taking one on the chin, as they say. Okay, Travis Kelce is back in ball here, so to speak. Not football, but baseball. That's right. Kelce is buying a minority stake in his hometown Cleveland Guardians. How about this? Kelce telling ESPN, "I have so much love for this city. I say it all the time. I'm just a kid from the Heights, living the dream. I credit every good thing in my life to Cleveland and being raised here with values and ethics," and says that he's very fortunate to have a front row seat to some good ownership. Kelce is 36 years old, and he is the latest professional athlete to acquire an equity stake in a baseball team. That would include LeBron James with the Red Sox, Giannis with the Brewers, Cade Cunningham with the Texas Rangers, and of course, Patrick Mahomes with the Kansas City Royals. Now, for somebody who can speak to experience with this, keep in mind that minority stake is very much minority stake. Now, I don't know the numbers, and sometimes they get revealed and sometimes they don't, but I'm going to tell you right now that my guess is that Kelce probably, in terms of the Guardians, folks, hang on here, owns less than 1% of the team. That's just a guess. Probably less than 1%. Teams are very, very expensive, billions of dollars. If Kelce owns 1%, I would be very impressed. The number one sports bar in the country has officially been named. It is Winking Lizard Tavern in Northeast Ohio. Congratulations. The USA Today asked readers which was the best sports bar in the country, and USA Today gave it to Winking Lizard Tavern, saying it's great for game day hangouts. The burgers are great. The ribs are great. The pizza is great. And they have great drinks as well. They say it's a great atmosphere, and it's been locally owned since 1983. So if you're in Northeast Ohio and you want to check out the Winking Lizard, it's got some really good reviews. Just take it from the USA Today. That'll do it for the show today. Thanks to Tommy and Frank on the controls. Thanks to Chris producing the show. I'm Craig Mish. I hope you enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. We'll be back for the Thursday edition of NewsWire tomorrow at 12 o'clock Eastern. I hope you have a great day.
The UIM Formula One World Championship Series. We are over the moon excited about the upcoming season.
Let's go.
10,000 horsepower roars off the dock. Oh my, there's a problem. On the outside, side by side.
And he's lost control of the book.
Hopes and dreams of winning here.
Yes!
Get ready for round one. The Regione Sardegna Grand Prix of Italy, May 29th to 31st.
Craig Carton along with Tyrone Johnson. We got great news for you. CraigCartonShow.com. And Tyrone, what do you get if you go to that amazing website?
Well, right now you can subscribe to our upcoming newsletter. You put in your email address, and then bang, you'll get all the new Craig Carton Show content when it arrives.
Not just that, you also get merch drops, exclusive content, and appearances. So again, one more time, that website is CraigCartonShow.com.
That's for Abdul Carter. Hey, son, you want to be a leader? Show up to meetings on time. Don't be late to practice. This guy's sitting there trying to tell me that he's got a problem with Jackson Dart going to a Trump rally when he can't even show up to a meeting on time? And he can't show up to practice and he's late? Dude.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio. Only on SportsGrid.